you on, Chris, because we frequently talk about energy affordability as Albertans here. And I know you focus a lot on this and how climate policies just make your life so much more expensive. And there are all these sorts of pernicious little ways that these expensive climate policies are foisted upon an unwilling and unable to bear the burden taxpayer. So we talk a lot about the carbon tax, but that's just not the only way. One of the other ways is this push to get us all into these vehicles that don't work in our environment. And I'm talking about electric cars. Now, we know that the federal government has accelerated the push for electric cars. They want us all in them. I think it's by 2035. And they're doing this through expensive subsidies. Thankfully, the uptake on the subsidies is low for the taxpayers. But nobody ever asked us what we want. What we want with these things. So the Canadian Taxpayers Federation actually did that. You asked the Canadian public, the government is going to do this to you. Do you even want these things? Tell us what you found out.
Yeah, for sure. So here at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we've noticed a pattern. Same thing as you brought up, right? Where it's always twofold. So to give you an example, the Trudeau government isn't just paying off the mainstream media with hundreds of millions of your dollars, plus the $1.4 billion for the CBC. No, my friend. They're also trying to monitor and restrict your free expression online. So it's always the vice. It's always two sides. And so with this one, again, here's the two sides. Yeah, they're trying to crush you with the carbon tax to make regular energy unaffordable when you have nowhere else to go, which is a huge financial punishment. But on the other side of the vice, they're banning normal vehicles. So they're going to ban, the Trudeau government is going to ban the sale of new gasoline, diesel, and hybrid vehicles. I will point this out.
I did not know that. So
That's
anybody
correct.
who bought a hybrid vehicle because they were trying to get around this nonsense while still having a vehicle that might work, they're going to get hit with this too.
Yes. So they only want, for some reason, they've decided they only want battery-powered cars in Canada. Period. So if you've got gasoline, diesel, or some hybrids. Some hybrids are getting in under the ban, some are not. You'd have to go read the regs on it. But the main takeaway is the normal vehicles that millions of us buy and we depend on every single year and choose to go purchase are soon going to be banned in Canada. They'll be illegal. And folks who are watching, if they think 2035 is way far in the future, that is about 10 years from now.
Yeah, that's one Trudeau term.
Thank you. Because I was just about to say, that's about how long Prime Minister Stephen Harper has been gone from office for. So if you remember that day clearly, that's how soon these gasoline and diesel-powered new vehicle sales are going to be outlawed in Canada. Now, this is a problem for many reasons. One, people should be able to purchase the vehicle they want to, because, we're grown adults. Two, we don't have the energy for this. We cannot make them go. We don't have enough juice in Canada to make these battery vehicles go vroom vroom. Three, we can't afford the price tag that this is going to cost to build the new power plants, power lines, infrastructure, and charging stations for this thing. So all that understood, this is what's key here, Sheila. Very few people have realized this yet, of just how stark this ban will be. But still, when the Taxpayers Federation, we hired a very reputable polling firm, Leger, okay? It is a national polling firm. This just wasn't something that we asked on Twitter from our supporters. I didn't do a quick straw poll. No, this is a national polling firm. Leger asked, are you in favor of this vehicle ban? Are you in favor of the electric vehicle forced mandate? When you remove the undecideds, so those who actually have made up their minds, more than 60% of Canadians are saying no. And I would argue that's with very little information. Like, mainstream media isn't covering this super hot and heavy. You're not hearing this in the House of Commons very much. You have to be a super into it political nerd to know this is coming down the pipe, or you have to be in the vehicle industry. Try to be a car salesperson, right? So even with all that understood, if you take away the undecideds, for those who've made up their mind, yeah, more than 60% of Canadians are saying, no, we don't want you to ban these vehicles.
Right. And for those people out there who say, well, I don't have a car, I pull in an old Krista Freeland, I don't drive. Sure,
You have a
ladies,
chauffeur.
somebody drives.
Right.
But even if you say, like, I don't drive, I take public transit, I live next door to my work, my school, and my grocery store, I'm in my 15-minute city, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Even if all that is true, what do you think the increased demand for electricity when we haven't ramped up the grid is going to do to the cost of running your fridge and turning a light on?
Exactly.
This has a knock-on effect all the way through the economy, and it will make everything that relies on electricity more expensive, including food.
Yeah. So anybody notice that when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau cranks up the carbon tax, everything gets more expensive?
Weird.
Yeah, that's because when you increase the cost of energy, however you do it, in this case, the government's doing it through taxation, when you increase the cost of baseline energy, you make almost everything more expensive because it takes energy to make stuff. It takes energy to grow stuff, to truck stuff, and to get yourself to the grocery store to buy it. Even the stores themselves, of course, need energy. They have the lights on. It's not coming from unicorn dust. Quite often here in Alberta, it's coming from natural gas. You carbon tax natural gas up the wazoo, guess what? You're going to have higher costs of everything. Same goes for diesel. Same goes for gasoline. And now if you're looking at this electric vehicle mandate, okay, just imagine we're in the future, okay? In 10 years' time, okay, picture, just for argument's sake, picture all of our vehicles needing to be electric on day one. So we know, of course, there'll be some people hanging on to their gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles. They'll be phased in, blah, blah. What that will do to the cost at the pump and how those fueling stations will stay open, all those gas stations, I don't know. But anytime the government gets involved with things, it's usually a financial disaster. But let's just, for the sake of argument, say that, midnight 2025, 10 years from now, we all have electric vehicles. In Alberta alone, Sheila, we would need 3 new big nuclear plants. Just for the cars. Just for the cars. I'm not talking about long-haul trucking. In British Columbia, there's a really smart dude. He's a scientist, Blair King, in British Columbia. He did the calculation a couple of years back. In British Columbia, just for the vehicles, not for industry, they would need 9 new Site C dams. Folks, one of those big nuclear power plants, of which we would need 3 here in Alberta, that costs between $10 and $15 billion in today money. Not 10 years from now money, today money. And they take around 10 years to build. So we do not have the money for this.
The more I think about this, like you mentioned, a vice on both sides pushing in. If I had to guess, they will bring down a vice on the top too. Yes. In that they would probably outlaw or grandfather out the sale of parts for gas and diesel powered vehicles, because they've got to force you off the thing that you can continue to tinker with as long as you possibly can to avoid buying a vehicle that doesn't work in our climate. Bingo. And that's what I think. I think that's the next thing that's coming to shoehorn people into this thing that they don't want, is to take away your ability to continue to repair the thing that you love and that you need and that works.
And on top of that, so let's just play government monopoly here. What happens if you want to go to the States and buy a normal vehicle, say in Montana? Are they going to let you bring that across the border? Do you really think so? No, they'll probably set up some gigantic, wasteful government agency in order to stop you at the border. Look, we couldn't even get people back across their own border into their own country during the lockdowns without them wasting millions and millions of dollars on the ArriveCan app, which also didn't work. So just imagine what it'll be for something like vehicle importation. How they are going to swing this, by the way, with the auto pact agreements that we have with the United States. Like, I'm going to leave that up to Dr. Jay Goldberg. He's our Ontario director. But for those of us out west, if you haven't lived in Ontario or that Quebec-Windsor corridor, you may not realize what a big deal the agreement is for auto manufacturing between Canada and the United States. Like, it's what makes stuff happen and go there. So how we are going to be able to fly with this vehicle ban starting in 2035 here, when they may not have one in the States, that's just another humongous headache. Also, they could start coming after people for insurance. They could go after used car sales, but as of right now, it's just the ban of new vehicles, which I think is bad enough.